The ink on my divorce papers hadn't even dried yet when I picked up the phone and made a call that was about to flip an entire family's comfortable little world upside down. Just 3 minutes. That's all it took. After the judge said the words, marriage dissolved. And trust me, what happens next? You're gonna want to hear this. 3 minutes later, I called my HR director. 6 words. That's all I gave her. Terminate her contract. Today, her, meaning my ex-husband's little sister, the woman who had $150,000 a year, a corner office, and a career that only existed because of me. By the next day, she'd have none of it left. And by the end of this story, you'll understand exactly why I didn't feel 1 ounce of guilt. My name is Elena Marsh. I'm the CEO of a company I built from nothing. This is the story of how a family looked at me and decided I was weak enough to humiliate, and how they paid a price they never, not for 1 second, saw coming. 5 years ago, I married a man named Charming, ambitious, and he came from a tight-knit family that seemed warm, almost too warm, if I'm honest. His mother, Margaret, called him every single day. His younger sister, Claire, was 24, fresh out of college, hungry for a job in a brutally competitive industry. At the time, I was already running my company. Not huge yet, but growing fast. And I was proud of every single brick I'd laid with my own hands. So when Nathan asked if I could get Claire an entry-level job, I said yes, without hesitation. That's what family does, I told myself. You lift each other up. I hired her myself, trained her myself, mentored her like she was my own blood. And within 3 years, largely because of the doors I opened for her, Claire was a senior manager, pulling in $150,000 a year. I thought I was building a family. I thought loyalty went both ways. I was wrong.
It started small, the way these things always do. Whispers in the break room that stopped the second I walked in. Claire forgetting to invite me to family dinners after months of insisting I come. Margaret's little comments at holidays. Well, of course Elena doesn't have time for family. She's got her important little company. I let it go. Told myself I was overthinking it. But then I started noticing things I couldn't unsee. Documents that should have stayed confidential, somehow surfacing in conversations Nathan had no business being part of. Strategy plans, salary structures, things only a handful of senior people should ever have known. So I started paying attention, and what I found shook me. Claire had been quietly feeding Nathan information for months. Maybe not out of malice. Maybe she just thought of it as harmless family gossip. But Nathan, he was using every piece of it, building a case that I was a workaholic, that I cared more about my business than my marriage. And he wasn't wrong that I worked hard. He was wrong about why. I worked hard because I remembered what it felt like to have nothing. And I was never going back to that feeling. The affair didn't come out all at once. It unraveled, layer by layer, like something rotting slowly beneath the surface. I found out Nathan had been seeing a woman from his gym for almost 8 months. When I confronted him, expecting shame, I got something worse. Silence. And then blame. Maybe if you were home more, he said. Maybe if you weren't always at the office. I stood in my own kitchen, stunned. This was the man I had supported, the man I built a comfortable life for, and now he was making me feel like his betrayal was somehow my fault. But the deepest wound, that came from it. My mother-in-law, when I called her, foolishly hoping for some kind of support, she said something I will never forget. Helene, honestly, we always thought you were a little too cold for this family. Nathan deserves someone softer. And Claire said nothing. No defense. No phone call. The woman I
personally taken from an entry-level job to a six-figure salary. Just went quiet. Chose her brother and her mother over the person who'd opened every door for her. Not silent. Anything didn't cry in front of them. I saved those tears. Hello, in my car, in an empty parking garage. But somewhere in that darkness, something in me shifted. The sadness turned into clarity. Asking why did they do this, and started asking. I forced with it. Nathan barely got it. The gym girl was on wings. Margaret called twice during the proceeding, not to apologize if I'd go eat a moment. I did go eat. I only had not more, not less. I didn't put one thing unfit. Took a page for years who were tearing my marriage apart from the inside. She chose blood or family gossip for basic, and she did it while cashing checks with my. This wasn't anger. This was pure, simple. It wasn't a two-way street. The night of the divorce, I remember Walls feeling my assistant was waiting by, and the second I sat down,
I picked up the phone. 3 minutes. That's all it took. I called my head of HR and told her to schedule Claire's termination meeting for that very afternoon. Grounds, conflict of interest, breach of confidentiality, both fully documented, both completely legitimate. I wasn't firing her because she was Nathan's sister. I was firing her because she leaked confidential information and proved over and over where her loyalty actually was. This wasn't spite. Keeping her would have meant pretending nothing happened, and I was done pretending. That same afternoon, security walked Claire out of the building. I heard she cried in the lobby, begged for a second chance, asked how her own family could do this to her, except by marriage, I wasn't her family anymore, and honestly, in spirit, I never really was. Word spread fast. Over the next 2 weeks, Margaret called me 99 times, each voicemail angrier than the last, calling me cruel, vindictive. I didn't answer a single one, because Margaret conveniently left out one small detail in all those voicemails. Claire wasn't fired because she was my ex-husband's sister. She was fired because an internal investigation proved she leaked confidential salary structures and strategic documents. Information she had absolutely no right to share. This wasn't personal. This was company policy. The same policy that would have applied to anyone. Without her six-figure salary and without a clean track record, Claire struggled to find comparable work. Word travels fast in our industry, and a confidentiality breach isn't exactly easy to hide in an interview. Nathan called too, demanded I fix things for his sister. I told him exactly what I told his mother. I don't control the consequences of other people's choices. I only made sure those choices had consequences. People sometimes ask me if I regret it, if I was too harsh. I don't think I was harsh. I think, for the first time in years, I was honest. For too long, I confused loyalty with obligation. I thought love meant swallowing betrayal quietly, smiling through the jabs, handing opportunities to people who turn around and use them against me the moment it served them the most. Here's what I learned. Family isn't built from blood or marriage certificates. Family is who stands beside you when it actually costs them something. Claire could have told me everything, months before the divorce, or at the very least, stayed neutral. Instead, she chose silence. And in moments like that, silence is its own kind of betrayal. I don't regret setting the boundary. My own regret is how long it took me to realize I needed one. Today, my company is stronger than it's ever been. I've surrounded myself with people who remind me every single day what real loyalty looks like. People who tell me hard truths instead of hiding behind polite silence. People who earn their place instead of borrowing it from a relationship. Nathan remarried within a year. I hear Margaret still calls him every day, just like she always did. And Claire, last I heard, she's working somewhere far below the position she once had, trying to rebuild a reputation that one betrayal destroyed. As for me, I built something no one can ever take from me, because I built it myself, brick by brick, long before any of them arrived, and long after they were gone. If there's one thing you take from this story, let it be this. You have every right to protect what you've built. You have every right to walk away from people who mistake your kindness for weakness. And you are never, never obligated to pay for someone else's betrayal. Not financially,
not emotionally. Sometimes, the most powerful thing in the world isn't a scream, it isn't chaos. Sometimes, it's just